Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks exciting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. Oh, and just one more thing before we go. Please consider like, commenting, and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. But now with all that out of the way, let's carry on with the video. Okay, so the first colour we're going to be using with Xardorok here is underdark grey, and we'll be using this for his skin tone. So Xardorok is a duergar, which means he has a very sort of greyish, purplish skin, and underdark grey is going to be the perfect colour for this. Also, just before that, I've given him a Zenithal Prime, which is priming with black, then going over with a white or a grey, and dusting it from above, making it look like the sun's beaming down so we can easily pick out those highlighted areas. But we just want to pick out the face with our underdark grey here. Okay, so once we have his skin picked out, we're going to come in now with some charcoal brown. I'm going to be using this for Xardorok's boots here. So we want some nice dark boots, especially since he's going to be around a field of ice and snow. We want something to contrast a lot of that and really separate him out from that. And going with a nice, really deep, dark brown is going to really help make him pop out a little bit, so we can definitely see where his boots end and the snow begins. Okay, so now we have his boots picked out. We're going to come in now with some smoke, and this is going to be for the main colour of his jacket. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm actually trying to copy Xardorok Sunblight's official artwork as much as possible as I can with the paints I have. I won't be able to get them exactly, but I want to try and get it as close as I can with the paints I have. So if you're going for an official look here, like I'm trying to do, this will hopefully help you out in doing this. But so using our smoke here, it's going to be a good color for the leather on his jacket he's wearing. It's sort of a very sort of like murky grayish green brown. It's very interesting, the color I've got here for smoke. Even the official artwork has a very interesting color of brown for his cloak as well. So trying to match it as best as I can with the paints I have. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back in with our charred brown that we had from before to do the boots, and I'm just going to be doing the belt that's around his waist there, and you can see it's just dangling a little bit there on the bottom of his beard. So just picking that out there, you may want to switch to a different color brown. I'm going to go with a nice deep dark brown. It's going to look as close as I can, like I said, to the official artwork, and he has a very dark leather strap around him, so that's what I'm trying to mimic here. Then once we have that leather belt picked out, what we're going to do now is going to come in with some druchii violet, which is a purple wash. So purple wash is going to really help with this. And what we're going to do with it is we're going to place it over our skin of Xardorok here, just along his face. So to really emphasize the purple in that purple grey we've placed down with our underdark grey. So really trying to boost that up, really make him look as close as I can get him to a duergar. Then once our druchii violet is completely dried, we're going to come in now with some highlights for the skin. And this is coming in with the underdark grey and just a little bit of deck tan mixed in to lighten it up a little bit there. And we're going to be using this, of course, for the highlights. So that's the highest points areas. Easiest way to remember, especially on faces, is you just want to be hitting the eyebrows, the bridge of the nose there, and any sort of cheeks that are popping out if they've got some nice sculpted detail there like Xardorok has. Okay, so now that we've highlighted his face, we're going to come in now with some basalt grey. And what we're going to be doing with this is we're going to be using this for the gloves slash gauntlets he has on his arm there. So just really being careful to pick them out. He also has a little bit of fur tufts just on the end of his gauntlets that he's got on there. So be wary of that too. We want to come in with a different colour for that. So just try and avoid that if you can. But you want to pick out all the fingers and just the areas where that's covering. Trying to get it as good as you can, especially getting those nooks and crannies with the little gaps in between the fingers. Okay, so now that we've got that done, what we're going to be doing now is we're coming in with some agrax earthshade, and we're going to be applying this to all of our brown coloured areas. So that's of course his jacket, his boots, everything like that. And we want to be making sure that we want to avoid any pooling on the miniature. So he has some very nice deep sort of recesses and curves in his jacket, especially like you can see here as I'm placing it around. It's a very common place for it to pull up as it's drying, so pay a little bit of attention as it's drying, or simply wick it up with your brush to make sure we avoid any pooling. Okay, so once that's completely dry, what we're going to do now is we're going to come on with some deck tan, and we're going to be using this for the fur trim everywhere that we can see any fur trim. So that's basically the lining of his coat, and just on the edges of his gauntlets there, like I was mentioning before when we were painting those up. So don't forget the little tufts on there as well. And it's just a matter of going around, carefully picking out. As you can see, I'm using small, swift striking motions just to really pick out the big bulk of it and try not to get any of it on those areas we've already painted. Don't worry if you do, you can simply clean it up, as you see I am right here with a wet brush, just trying to brush it away as quickly as possible before it sets. Okay, so now that we've got that fur trim picked out, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to come in with some ivory. And we're going to be using this for Xardorok's hair and facial hair. So ivory looks very similar to deck tan. They are different colors, and you can see that the deck tan is sort of a little bit more creamier than the ivory here. But what we're going to do to this a little bit later on is apply some different washes to really make them separate out. I didn't want them looking too close together, as the official miniature artwork has it very similar. They may have used the same color even with that, and I wanted to separate them out a little bit more so you can clearly distinct what's fur and what's his facial hair. So we'll see that in the later steps. Okay, so once we've got those done, it's time to apply the washes. So we're going to come in with some seraphim sepia, and this is what I'm saying, that we want to separate those two out a little bit. So we're just going to be using our seraphim sepia on the areas where we applied the deck tan, or in other words, the fur trim. And you can see that it's immediately applying a completely different color, and we're getting a different look already. And that's just with simply applying the washer. When it dries, it's going to look different again. And of course, we're going to apply some other techniques as well to separate them out a little bit so you can clearly distinct between the two. But remember, when we're painting fur as well, to be careful about a lot of the pulling. Since it's got nice sculpted detail in there, it's very easy for it to pull really heavily in between those little tufts of fur. So just be careful of that. Okay, so once we have that seraphim sepia completely dry, we're going to come in with some nuln oil now. And this is what we're going to be using for the facial hair and the hair of Xardorok here. And this is going to give it, of course, like I said, a very different, distinct look. And you see immediately as we apply that, it's two very separate colors and distinct, different areas of the model. So that's what I was trying to do here and really separate them out. I didn't want them getting too muddy together and make it look like you can't tell where the fur and the hair begin. So this is one easy way to separate out colors like that. If you're not sure of how to do it when you've got two very similar colors next to each other, a wash can make a world of difference when you're applying it onto areas of similar colors. Then once we have that completely dry, we're going to come back in with some ivory now. And this is to be, of course, highlighting the areas of our facial hair that we've got here. So you can see I'm just going along, picking out those highest points on the strand, using the edge of my brush so I can catch as much of them, sort of like in a dry brushing motion. You could also dry brush this if you wanted to. I wanted a little bit more precision in that, since it's so close to face and other parts of the model, that since he's so small, since he's a dwarf, I didn't want to get a dry brush in there and accidentally hit any areas I didn't want to. So I just used my ordinary brush with this, taking a bunch of the paint off and really just sort of using it as a dry brush as well. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be doing some metallic, so using our gunmetal here. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be picking out those pauldrons he has on him, really being careful that we don't get any of that fur on there, because we don't want to be mixing our metallics with any of our other colors already painted on. So be a little bit more precise when you're doing this. As well as that, he also has some sort of metal plating on his boots as well, so you want to make sure you pick those out as well. I'm doing a terrible job of filming it so you can see. There we go, now you can actually see what I'm doing here. And you just want to be picking out those little plates as well. As well as that, he also has a little dagger on his side. We want to be picking that out. And just underneath his gauntlets as well, he has some metal plating. So don't forget those areas as well. Then once we have those areas picked out, we're going to come in now with some duergar metal. And this is, of course, a nice deep, rich, sort of blackish metal. And we want to be using this for Xardorok's crown. Really help emphasize this. Now, you could do this as silver and that as well. I wanted to separate it out a little bit different. In the official artwork, he does have a very dark end. I think it's almost black, but I wanted to go with this nice sort of really deep iron seal. Of course, he's a duergar, so what better color to use than duergar metal on there for his crown. So it's just a matter of going around picking them out, being very careful not to get it anywhere where we've already painted, especially since we've basically completed the hair as well. So we want to be practice our brush control a little bit here. Okay, so now that we've painted up his crown, what we're going to be doing is we're going to come in with some nuln oil once again, and we're going to be using this for all of our dark areas. So as well as that, we also want to be using it on our metallic areas as well. So his shoulder pads, his parts on his boots, on his gauntlets there, as well as the crown itself. Really darken everything down. Now, you could have done this in the step when we did our facial hair as well, if you planned ahead like I did. But as you can tell, I clearly didn't plan ahead, so I'm doing it now, just to really catch up on it and get those gloves as well. Don't forget about those gloves. I almost forgot about those gloves, so don't forget about those. We want to darken those down, make them look a little bit more black in color. Okay, so now that we have Xardorok painted up here, it's time to move on to his base. So I want to come in with some athermatic blue. It's a tough word to say there. And we want to be using this for the ice/snow he's standing on. I'm going for more of a super icy effect here. And I'm really liking this color. It's actually my first time using it. And I really do like it, especially for this like deep frozen, really sort of Arctic ice. It's really good color for that. And it's just a matter of going around, and it's also a contrast paint, so we're taking full effect of it with the zenithal prime we gave it as well. So it's really going to help give different colors and layers to the piece. And it's just a matter of coming in and coating the whole thing, really being wary of those little crystals that are jabbing out, because we'll be painting those a little bit later. Okay, so once we have that completely dry, what we're going to be doing now is going to come in with some more contrast paint, and this is black templar. I'm going to be using this to be picking out those crystals that I was mentioning before. I'm not 100% sure if they're crystals or not, and it's part of the Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's sort of like a special ore or something. I don't know. I haven't played the campaign or anything myself, so I'm not 100% sure of what it is. But they're very cool, and as like I said, I'm trying to copy that official artwork, and so he has this sort of like onyx looking thing there, and they're very, very dark and black. So black templar is going to do well with this, and since we did that zenithal prime as well, since it's not quite pitch black, we're going to get some interesting colors on there as well. Okay, now with that, we can move on to an optional step here, totally up to you if you want to do this. And all I've done is I've applied some glue to our base area where we place that athermatic blue to really add the snow effect that I'm going with here, which is just using some snow flocking and just placing it on top. So I want that, that ice, that sort of deep Arctic ice to be underneath the snow, and it's been a nice heavy snowfall, and really to help try and bring the miniature a little bit more to life. So totally up to you if you want to do this step or not. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up Xardorok Sunblight from the Dungeons & Dragons miniature range by Gale Force 9. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here, or you just want to use this video for some inspiration. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.